What if everything you've ever known, every moment, every memory, every identity, was part of a carefully designed mirage? Not a mistake, not a glitch, but a sacred illusion. One that you chose long before you ever opened your eyes to this world. This is the story of Maya. Not just the ancient Sanskrit term for illusion, but the fundamental operating system behind human consciousness. The lens through which you view, feel, and interpret reality. And most people never question it because it's all they've ever known. From the moment you're born, the veil begins to settle. You're named, labeled, categorized, boy or girl, good or bad, worthy or not. You're taught to see the world not as it is, but as you're told it is. You learn the rules before you understand the game. And in doing so, you forget the one who agreed to play. But Maya isn't just cultural programming or psychological conditioning. It's cosmic in nature. It exists to create the friction, the contrast, the amnesia necessary for awakening. Without forgetting, you cannot remember. Without illusion, there is no discovery. Without death, no rebirth. That's the sacred lie. You chose this forgetting. Before birth, in the quiet space between worlds, you understood that diving into illusion would offer you something nothing else could. The chance to find yourself again, to experience source through limitation, to rediscover light inside shadow. You said yes to the dream, not because you were tricked, but because the dream is part of the path. And yet, like any powerful dream, Maya doesn't like being questioned. The moment you begin to ask, who am I really? The structure begins to crack. The world pushes back. Friends distance. Certainties collapse. Your own mind fights to preserve the comfort of not knowing. Because illusion is safe, familiar, predictable. Truth isn't. Maya isn't the villain. Maya is the veil that both hides and reveals. And most people will spend their entire lives polishing the surface of the dream, never suspecting that what's behind the curtain is more real than anything they've touched. But you, if you're here listening to this, then something in you already knows. You've seen the flicker behind the face, the subtle wrongness in what everyone else calls normal. You felt the echo of something ancient stirring beneath your skin, and you can't unsee it now. You're awake. At least enough to notice that you've been asleep. And it hurts, doesn't it? To see the lie you helped create. To realize that everything you clung to for identity was built on air. But pain is proof of contact. The discomfort is a sign you've brushed up against truth. This isn't just a spiritual concept. It's the architecture of your life. In the next part, we'll go deeper into the layers of illusion you've unknowingly adopted. You'll begin to recognize how Maya isn't out there in the system or the society or the media. It's in your own reflection, in your story, in your sense of self. And once you see that, you'll understand why the illusion is so powerful, because it looks exactly like you. You think you know who you are, a name, a story, a personality you've carried for years. But what if none of that is you? What if your identity is just another layer of the illusion? That's the second veil of Maya, the mask of the self. From birth, you're taught to become someone. You're given a name, a role, a path to follow. You're rewarded when you conform, punished when you don't. Slowly, you learn what earns love, what earns safety. You adapt, you perform. You build a version of yourself that fits the world around you. But fitting in means forgetting. You forget who you were before the role, before the voice in your head started sounding like you, before you learned how to smile when you're sad, before you became the responsible one, the funny one, the spiritual one. Maya isn't just external, it's internalized. It lives in your self-image, in your thoughts, in your reactions. And the more you identify with the role, the more distant you become from the one who's playing it. But here's the twist. You chose this mask. You agreed to forget, to fully immerse in this identity, knowing that the struggle to remember would awaken you. pain isn't a mistake. It's the pressure point of illusion rubbing up against truth. Still, Maya fights back. It tells you you're broken, that questioning your identity is dangerous, that letting go means losing everything. But you're not losing. You're stripping away what never belonged. Behind every label is silence. And in that silence, something ancient waits, watching, aware, still untouched by the game. Listen to your thoughts, not what they're saying, but how they sound. The rhythm, the tone, the urgency. Have you ever stopped to ask, where did this voice come from? Most people never do. They think that voice is them, that it's personal, but it's not. That voice was built layer by layer by parents, teachers, media, memory, trauma. It was shaped by other people's fears and expectations long before you had a chance to choose your own. That's the next level of Maya, inherited thought. You weren't born with opinions. You weren't born with guilt or self-doubt. You absorbed those like background noise. Over time, they became internal commands, invisible rules, thought patterns on autopilot. And now, when the voice in your head whispers, you're not enough, or you'll never make it, it feels like your truth. But it isn't. It's just programming echoing inside you. And you've mistaken the echo for your essence. This illusion is so deep, it feels like home. But here's the truth. The real you doesn't speak in fear. It doesn't rush. It doesn't panic. It watches. It listens. It knows. The moment you realize that the voice isn't yours, something cracks. A silence appears. Not emptiness, but space. A place where the real voice can finally be heard. And that's where the real awakening begins. Not with new thoughts, but with fewer ones. Not by adding beliefs, but by watching them fall away. Before we continue, take a breath. You're not broken. You're remembering. Subscribe and tap the bell if this message feels like something you've always known but never heard spoken out loud. There comes a moment when the illusion begins to slip, not all at once, just a small fracture, a thought that doesn't land the same, a conversation that feels hollow, a memory that suddenly feels like fiction, and you can't unsee it. This is where most people panic, because what used to feel solid, your job, your beliefs, your relationships, begins to feel weightless. You reach for meaning, but your old definitions fall apart in your hands. This is Maya defending itself. The illusion isn't just visual or mental, it's emotional. It's wrapped around your comfort zones, your sense of control, even your understanding of love. And when it begins to break, it doesn't feel like freedom. It feels like death, but not a physical death. It's the death of who you thought you were. People around you may not understand. They'll say you're changing, withdrawing, overthinking. They'll offer solutions, distractions, affirmations, advice. But you're not looking for advice. You're losing your grip on a world you never truly belonged to. And in that loss, you begin to see. You see how much of your life was performance, how many of your dreams weren't yours, how your so-called truths were really borrowed. You realize you never really chose, you just followed. It's terrifying, because awakening doesn't feel like rising. It feels like falling. Like there's nothing left to hold on to, like you've jumped from the only world you've ever known and there's no landing in sight. But something strange happens in that fall. The silence that used to scare you becomes a sanctuary. The emptiness becomes potential, and the more you release, the lighter you feel. Not because you've become someone new, but because you've stopped pretending. This is what Maya fears, not your rebellion, not your anger, but your detachment. The illusion can only hold power over what you cling to. Let go, and the illusion lets go of you. There is a silence no one warns you about. After the illusion begins to fall, there's a space where nothing makes sense anymore. You don't relate to the world you left behind. And yet, you haven't fully arrived at whatever comes next. This is the sacred in-between. and it feels like loneliness. Friends drift, conversations lose their color. The things that once excited you now feel empty, and the ones who used to understand you no longer recognize the person you're becoming. This part hurts the most because you're not just losing people, you're shedding versions of yourself that were built to be loved by them. And with every layer that falls away, you feel more invisible. But this invisibility is initiation. You're not being punished, you're being purified, stripped of distraction, separated from noise. The loneliness isn't a prison, it's a clearing, a space wide enough for something real to finally find you. Still, it's hard. Your mind will beg to go back, to belong, to feel normal, to have someone look at you and say, "I see you." But that craving for connection is the final illusion, because the connection you need doesn't come from others. It comes from remembering who you are, without needing anyone else to validate it. This is why the hermits, mystics, sages all walked alone for a time, not because they hated the world, but because they needed to hear a voice that only speaks in silence. If you're here, walking through this sacred isolation, don't rush to escape it. Don't numb it. Don't try to make it pretty. Just stay, because the longer you sit with the stillness, the more it speaks. And when it does, it won't sound like the world you left. It will sound like home. You thought awakening would feel like light, but instead it feels like exhaustion, a kind of tiredness that sleep can't fix, a heaviness that sits in your bones, a fog that clouds your thoughts and slows your body. And the worst part, you can't explain it to anyone. They tell you you're just burned out, that you're overworked, that maybe you need more rest, more water, more vitamins, but this isn't physical. This is soul deep, because when Maya begins to dissolve, your nervous system panics. The mind has nothing left to cling to. The identity you held is gone, and in its place, nothing, just space, stillness, silence. You've detached from the illusion, but you haven't yet reconnected to what's real. And in that space between lies fatigue. You're not lazy. You're not broken, you're rewiring. Your mind is shedding false patterns. Your body is clearing old energy. Your spirit is anchoring itself in a place it hasn't touched in lifetimes. This isn't burnout. This is the crash after flight, and it's sacred. But society doesn't understand sacred exhaustion. It only honors productivity. So you feel guilty for needing to stop, for needing to breathe, for needing to feel absolutely nothing for a while. Don't fight it. This emptiness is part of the healing. You're not meant to go back to how things were. You're not meant to function like you used to. You're meant to slow down enough to hear what's been whispering underneath the noise all along. Let the fatigue soften you. Let the silence hold you. You are not falling behind. You are falling inward, and from that place, the new self begins to rise. After all the falling, the silence, the fatigue, something unexpected happens. You don't become someone new. You remember. Not with your mind, not through facts or books or spiritual theories, but through something softer, older, like a vibration buried under the noise, like a feeling you can't explain but somehow always knew. It comes slowly, not as a breakthrough, but as a whisper. You've never been separate. You've never been lost. You've only been dreaming, and not just dreaming, but dreaming on purpose, because that's what Maya is, a sacred lie, a divine forgetting, a descent into illusion so deep that when you finally wake up, you don't just know the truth, you become it. The stillness that scared you becomes your home. The detachment that broke you becomes your freedom. The loneliness becomes a companion, and the silence, once deafening, becomes your teacher. You begin to move differently, not because you've mastered anything, but because you're no longer trying. You're not chasing meaning anymore. You're creating space for it to arrive. You're not performing or pleasing or proving. You're just being. And in that being, there's a peace so quiet the world can't touch it. This peace isn't loud, it doesn't sparkle, but it's real. And once you've touched it, even for a second, nothing the illusion offers will satisfy you again. That's the return, not to a better version of yourself, but to the one who was watching the whole time. And in that return, a single question rises, quiet but sharp. If this was all a dream, what else have you mistaken for truth? You were never asleep. You were never lost. You were only dreaming, deeply, purposefully, beautifully. And now you're beginning to wake up. But awakening isn't an explosion. It's not fireworks or revelation. It's subtle, quiet, uneventful to the outside world. No one will clap for you. No one will understand what you've let go of. No one will see what you've seen. Because the journey wasn't about them. It was always about you. You facing the sacred lie without turning away. You remembering what can't be taught. You watching the illusion burn without trying to save it. This path is lonely, yes, but it's also holy, because on the other side of the lie, there is nothing to defend, nothing to prove, nothing to become. Only presence, only now. And in that now, you are not healed. You are not broken. You are simply aware, and that is everything. So when the dream creeps back in, when you feel the pull of roles, fears, habits, don't fight. Just watch, smile, and remember, Maya doesn't vanish. You just stop mistaking it for truth. And now, one final question, one that only you can answer. What part of your life still feels real, but might just be another layer of the dream?